All right. Welcome back to another week of throwing shade at Cramer and poking a little fun at that guy. Yeah, well, he's done it this week, and then last week we had some follow through where I agreed with him on one big one. I might give a little follow up on that, and then a couple of bonehead moves were made too. So um, yeah, we were all on top of that with our technical analysis skills, and it shows. So anyway, hopefully everyone's had a good trading week. We're excited to bring some more fun into this. Starting next week, we're going to start bringing guests on, so we can have some a panel of three people throwing shade at Kramer instead of just two.
More the merrier.
Heck yeah, man! Because technical analysis will always prevail on pretty much anybody like Kramer. And I'm still waiting for the Urban Dictionary to publish my definition of the Kramer bar. I haven't heard anything back yet. I'll go check on that and complain later, I guess. Sometimes you can get far with that. Anyway, looking at SPY, we're kind of sitting in a zone where we're in liquidity from the previous all-time high here. I like to mark those out in gold for some reason. And we're teasing it for support right now. If we can hold, I think we got a good shot at running up to the 540s. But man, that's pretty parabolic. And gosh, it's been parabolic for a long time, even after this
Just
pullback.
remember, non-farm payrolls are tomorrow,
Mm,
so you could have a very dead day ahead of that. Also, Nvidia opened up very green and is now red. I think this could be a Nvidia profit-taking day.
that sounds like a plan in the most case. And where we're sitting, we do have a threat of if things aren't so good, we have a reversion target that's pretty obvious. Right down here, like 528 to 529 ish, is about the middle of this trend. Yeah, it's pretty much anybody's game at that point tomorrow once the payrolls come out. Sometimes they have a big effect on the market. Sometimes they just sort of melt around a little bit. Going to be an interesting day for sure. Um, as far as Nvidia goes, yeah, it's a lot of people taking profit on that thing, but it's like the old Warren Buffett said, the market can remain irrational much longer than you can remain solvent. So careful with that. Don't go chasing FOMO. Don't go blindly following Kramer into a trade either. That's what we're here to talk about. So anyway, yeah, we've got a pretty good shot of running up higher, but yeah, there is a chance that we could revert for a reversion trade back down to here. I'm not gonna be the guy who says the sky's falling, the economy's falling apart. We already know that. We just what the market thinks is what we care about, and the market so far has been bullish on all this stuff. So we'll ride with the bulls until they get tired. We know what to do. Worst case scenario, we start really having a meltdown and hit the 520s, but that's still just part of a reversion trade, still part of a possible pullback. And I think even if we did hit that range, we're likely to at least get a big giant wedge out of that over the long term and maybe poke out to like the end of July or so before we make a breaking move, if that is the case and we consolidate in that range. But in the meantime, short-term, medium-term stuff says we got a pretty good shot at either running up or running down from this liquidity zone. Wait and see. So a few Kramer snafus, and I want to get into those. Give me 1 second. I want to make sure we're actually working on YouTube here. All right. Yep, we're on. Okay. Sometimes this thing does weird things to me, and I want to make sure it's working before I go and dig in. Okay. Into the Kramer list. So I'm going to go and go over a review of a couple of trades from last week that went well. And one of them I'm looking at is Walt Disney. He said buy it, and we disagreed, and we were mostly right. So far, we're looking at a move still to that $98 target is prevalent, but we've already made a reversion of the previous short-term trend. So this is kind of anybody's guess, but long-term, looking like it's likely to close that gap, and 98 smacks right exactly where that target would be. Are you still short Disney at all, or are you kind of out of that game for a little while till this
I'm
consolidates?
I'm out of Disney entirely. If we had Go Woke Go Broke up and running, we'd still be short it, but I am not personally.
It would make sense to. And yeah, I mean, anything in an ETF shorting go woke, go broke would have been a good idea still to hold short. Right now, it's consolidating after a pretty primary move here from yesterday's price action. That big fall was just awesome. Good time to short the high up here when it rejected our previous measured move target support area. And now we've got a bear flag. So if you're still short, be a little cautious here. It can bounce up for a quick reversion to the the 2 hour. What is that? The 20 or not? It's a 50 period here. Can revert right to about half that back, but it tried this morning and failed. So I think we're likely to continue breaking over and at least hitting support down here around $100 and maybe 50 cents or so. If that continues to break, my 98 target is still valid, I think, and I think I'm not the only one who thinks that. So looking left even further, I like to look at the weekly chart. A massive reversion could even take it lower to like 90. So we'll see what happens when we get there. So far, though, we've been pretty much 100% accurate with Disney. It's been pretty easy to trade. And let's move to the next one. Salesforce was another one. Cramer said sell this last week, didn't he? I thought. I can't remember. I think he said.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly. I mean, again, Benioff is one of his favorite guys. I mean, I personally bought the dip, and so far so good on that.
So I think he said sell that the previous day after this big drop, if I remember correctly. And I'm like, okay, half a kudo because it will hit the support area, which is right into our long-term measure move support area. We know where that is. And I bought the dip too. I went right for that target right down here at about 212. I got long a little after about 212.40 is where I'm long. And I still haven't taken profit yet, but if it continues to reject this 246 area here where I had the more or less halfway point of our measured move, I might just take profit on that and walk away. But if it continues to rip back up this whole gap down, targets up above are pretty easy. So
Yeah, I'm getting pretty close. Looks like I'm up 80% on my calls.
nice work. That's where I'm looking. I was in debit spreads, and I've got a couple of them in different places, and one of them's up 190%. The other one is up 85%. I think the last time I checked, which is good. One of them is a lot longer term than the other one. One's a monthly. The other one is a leap. Well, 4 months out. But long story short, it's been a pretty easy stock to trade with this price action. It's very predictable. I mean, these areas were easy to find. So, when the chart is easy and it makes a lot of sense to you, you scalp it. That's what we do. So, target was pretty easy to find, and I think, like I was saying, if it consolidates here and continues to push past this 246 zone, we got a pretty good shot at hitting 260s later on. But just be cautious here. If you're already long on this, why not take some profit? I might even consider selling some credit spreads against some of those debit spreads to lock in some profit and continue to hold on to a position. But if it breaks back below this support area right in here around 239 or 240 or so, I might consider just taking profit on the whole thing and walking away. So I'll wait and see. It's got some time to give me. Chipotle was another one. I think, if I recall, he said buy this one, and we halfway agreed with him. We said, well, wait for a reversion first and then buy it. I think is what we were saying.
Undercut and rally at the 50-day. I mean, theoretically, it'd be buyable here. I would rather wait for the split, but yeah.
It worked out, and I recall saying, "There's your Cramer bar," and so as soon as he said buy it, it sold down right to support. And I think we were just saying, "Yeah, wait for the reversion trade to finish," and it did, and then it bounced. So we agreed halfway. Didn't give him half a kudo though, because I mean he failed the people in the short term for sure. But eventually he was right. So I guess the broken clock did it again. That last but not least, I think he said buy APP, and I agreed with him on that one. Let me shade this thing. I never got the chance to shade it. But this is kind of a typical thing I like to do. Whenever I see these wedges, I always draw a regression line in the middle of it backwards and then build a measured move from that regression to angular resistance. And I came up with a measured move target up here a little higher, up to about 88 and some change. And it blasted. It got dang close with that wick this morning. Can we call that a high wave? Maybe it'll consolidate and run back up that high again, but just be careful. I would consider taking some risk off and just maybe leaving a few runners in it. But if you got long off of that reversion right off of here, you're still in pretty good shape as long as it doesn't break this angular support. You can definitely keep that as a long-term position. I didn't even bother messing with options on this thing. I just went with running the equity itself. But I think we got a pretty good shot of coming back up against this resistance area at about 84.30 and maybe getting some continuation to push that high wave a little higher. I think it's still a good bull position, and I'm just going to wait patiently and see what this tells me. If it breaches that angular support too far, of course, take profit and walk away. Just to give a follow-up. So how right we were, pretty good. I think if you stick with us, we'll take you to places Cramer never dreamed of. That's our goal in life. All right, this week he's got a few on the buy list. One I've been watching, and I'm not in agreement with him to buy this thing yet, but Snowflake here. I disagree with him on the short term. I think it's likely to go a little lower and test support, so I wouldn't buy it necessarily right here. It has made beyond a reversion trade. It's set up a beautiful bear flag, broke even further south. There's your Cramer bar. And we have a support target, and this is kind of in alignment with, the old market structure all-time low is back here around 110-ish, and I kind of streaked a pivot across there to like the 113.80 to just kind of split the difference. But mainly it pulls in with a measured move target for this as a primary, and that would be, the finishing secondary right around that level. Keep an eye on this, though, because the old half and whole rule definitely applies. Whoops, let me stretch this down a little bit. We've made more or less a half move in yesterday's range down here to that 128.40 area. If it consolidates and holds support in this range, maybe it can bounce here, but I'm going to say wait patiently, let this settle out, look for a reversal that confirms before you go long on that. So don't throw money after a Cramer on this one.
I would agree with you. If you zoom out on a weekly chart, there's no real support until, there's a little bit, but it really gets, in the 120s.
Yeah, it puts it in the weeds, like right around here. You can see that, that wick right around 124-ish. There's a range here, so I could mark a liquidity zone like I would normally do here on that wick and just stretch it across. But I don't need to. We kind of know where it is. I think this is let's hurry up and wait and be patient with this one. Maybe it'll eventually reverse, but I certainly wouldn't go chasing Cramer's money into this thing. It's not a buy yet. There's no reason to buy it yet that's presented itself to me or anybody who's technically inclined here. Wait and see. It'll give us a sign. Just be patient with it. If you want to sell options on it, that's a whole nother story, but I don't like the yield on it personally, so I just wait. Moving on, gold, or GLD here. This is just an ETF. He said buy it. I agree. It's good for the short term. Pretty obvious measured move is possible. It can dip down for a reversion trade. You can see the support level here. I know that a lot of heavy hitters were shorting gold recently, and you can see that action here. Can this form a triple top, you think? Maybe. It's kind of starting to resemble that, so half back of that kind of makes sense.
It's also got 6 points to the upside before it does.
True.
Yeah, I like it here. Undercut and rally at the 50-day the other day. I own it personally. Yeah, so I'm a fan as well.
Oh, we'll give Cramer a half a kudo on this one. Well, we'll give him a whole kudo. He did good. That's a pretty easy pick. I would just say be careful around the 220 area because that's about half of our expected move, and that's about our previous high from the first leg. If this does give us the old head and shoulders reversal, there's your head. Right shoulder would be expected right about here. So you're not the only one looking at these charts. Everyone and their mother does too. So, and that includes the algos. Let's throw a target up here right at that halfway point around 221 or so and say if it cruises through that, cool, we can stay long right on up to a full measure move to 226 and beyond. But watch for some resistance around that area. That's definitely going to be evident very soon. And then to boot, you can see there's some liquidity here. There were some sellers here starting at about 220.40. So be aware of that as well. You can say that maybe this would be the go no go range here. And the extension is, of course, here. This is the key resistance, and if it breaks out, cool. We can stay along with that. So, good job, Cramer. You got a one. Short term for day traders, also kind of be aware. This is a pretty obvious measured move here. You got your consolidation. It takes us right to the base of that liquidity zone where there will be some sellers waiting. So, kind of keep that in mind as well.
If you're a day trader, though, you want to trade the miners, not the metal.
Absolutely. And the miners definitely move a lot more dramatically. I mean, this is like, what, a $1 move on a $200 stock? Yeah, not too exciting for day traders. So I think unless you're options day trading, then you're doing good. But if you're running anything but leverage in this, yeah, it's not really significant enough for day traders to be on the equity. This is going to be the elephant in the room, and I think you're going to have some words with this one. PNC. He said buy it. Do you agree?
That's
PNC Financial Services. This is
no. This looks. I mean, it's sitting in an area between the 50 and the 10, but below the 50, to me, if anything, it's a short. Plus, I mean, you know how I feel about regional banks. I mean, this is a bigger bank, but still, yeah, I think these guys have problems. And this is, I mean, this is just such an ugly chart. I'd stay away from this one completely.
There was an article I saw the other day, kind of pointing out the fact that some of the bigger banks or even the bigger revolving debt lenders out there are on the brink of insolvency.
Oh yeah, I retweeted that article. I saw it.
I don't know if there's going to be a call for action on that or not. So I kind of wonder, well, the Fed isn't going to really care until things get out of hand and then they'll react too late. But what if, and I hate to say this, what if this turns into another bailout situation?
I doubt it. It depends. I mean, you've got the systematically important too big to fail banks. Those
right?
banks will get a bailout if they have issues. I don't know that they do. I think they're diverse enough in their product line and smart enough in, how they manage their assets. I'd be more worried about the regional banks that are not too big to fail.
Definitely.
What you'll probably end up happening is they'll have a shotgun marriage with JP Morgan at like $1 a share or something like that.
I like that.
Yeah, that's how it usually works.
The JPM always
There's
wins,
a benefit to being Jamie Dimon.
of course. Good point. And yeah, I mean they're not going to let them fall, but I mean in the meantime, volatility is on the wall for sure. There's definitely some writing on the wall for that, and we can see these chops have been pretty big on the daily chart for this particular equity. And look further left on the weekly, it's right in that reversion level. We see the big market structure trend here. 1-for-1 down, consolidated, blah, 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 made its reversion trade. Well, that's done, and we're at a tipping point. It'll either go finish that move and run half or whole of this trend, or break over and take some bulls out right back down to support. So I would say that it wouldn't be a good idea to necessarily buy it here. I'd wait patiently for this one to break either way. In fact, when Cramer said buy it yesterday, you got this hype wave. There's your Cramer bar. There's your support area. And I'm not going to give a kudo on this because I wouldn't invest in this thing with even somebody else's money. I wouldn't invest in it yet. I'd wait. you know, just to me, it's not quite giving us a signal to buy it here, but there's a chance it can, and if it does, sure, it'll revisit the high or half of it or whatever. I just be very cautious in today's atmosphere as far as big banks go and regionals. All of it is just kind of in flux right now. So just wait. Be patient. It'll give you a sign. It'll give you a move. It'll give you a definite decision later on. But for now, I think Cramer jumped the gun on this one. I think I'm going to wait patiently.
Yep.
Jump the shark, maybe. Moving on, he said buy MTZ, whatever the heck these people do. Mastech.
Oh, yeah, that's a new one to me. MTZ. It looks like it's consolidating a big move here.
I agree. And it's at a point where it could still go either way. It is somewhat parabolic. Right. It's had a really nice series of parabolic measured moves. 2-hour chart says we're right above a support area. There's some liquidity here. If it holds this and starts to break out, we got targets pretty obvious here. Half a move is like 119.50. The whole move would be up here in the 130 range. Certainly looks a lot like a rounding top. Many people love to short these things, and I don't ever short a rounding top because I know that if they hold in a range bar, they're going to rip a face off and take out the bears. A good bear trap is a rounding top, in my opinion. We know where the liquidity is, so if this breaches this zone here or even breaches half this zone, we might get worried and say, okay, we can take a quick short, run it down to 92. Cool, that's a pretty easy gap. Nice reversion trade to boot. But if it holds here, it can certainly give us a little bit more, bullish moves here. And if you take a measure from these two zones, it puts us right in the middle of this zone. So, yeah, it's got a good chance of being a buy later, but for now, no kudos for Cramer. This is I would have been patient on this. There's your Cramer bar happening now. Get into the 15-minute chart. It's set up for already made a measured move down. There's a bear flag here. If this breaks bearish, it's going to hit this liquidity pretty quick. So just be careful with this. Don't go chasing Cramer into this one. Stick to the rivers and lakes that you're used to. No pun intended. Sorry. Had to throw some TLC in there. Come on.
Sure.
I grew up in the 90s primarily, so got to stick with that. Yeah, wait patiently on this one. It'll give you a good trade. But for now, the day traders certainly all over shorting this a little bit, probably in the options chain. But for the swing traders, this might be a good time to keep an eye on this thing and just wait for its move. It'll give you a break of this range. It'll either break that and run for a bear target or bounce off and revert back to the highs. So it'll give you a trade one way or another, long or short. Give it time. Don't go jumping the gun on that. GEV was another one he said buy. There's your Cramer bar right there, baby. Ouch. This is something I will never ever understand why people chase these things, but they do. This is a big wave of hype off an IPO. Pretty much market structure is textbook. Everybody gets excited. They chase it higher and higher and higher. Damn near doubled here to 182, wicked over. And reversion trade, pretty easy mark, right? There's your liquidity zone for reversion, and it is slamming down to it because Cramer said buy it. I marked it in a pre-market this morning with this range here on these two pivots, and lo and behold, as soon as it broke that bear flag and broke that range, wham! Everybody shorted the crap out of this thing. They're heading for that 152 target pretty easily, I'm sure. Being an IPO, though, they tend to be very volatile, so be careful. As soon as you see shorts covering this, it'll happen quickly, and a reversion trade takes you right back to this level here. So, be cautious on this.
Yeah, I mean, my level's 135 on this.
Let me see
where you could see it go down to. Looks like a short to me here as well. I do see some support at 152, and then I see 135.
It makes sense because 135 is right down in the bottom of this area here. So, yeah, if it goes for a full beyond reversion in this liquidity zone, 135 is the next leg on that thing right in this wick. Good eye. I didn't even look at that part. And hey, there's a clean pivot right there anyway. Cool, man. It's been a good short. Um, should we have caught it yesterday when Cramer said something about it? Yeah, it'd been cool to get this out this morning, but it's already running its way to that liquidity zone. So if you're already short, you're doing great. Stay with it. It's going to keep on rolling, but be careful around 152. It might give a quick bounce for a reversion back to 158 or so. If it does, short it again. It's like whack-a-mole. Market structure does its thing with these IPOs all the time, and when Cramer says buy it, you get a Cramer bar pretty quickly. Oh man, I can't wait till that definition hits the Urban Dictionary. I'm gonna spam the crap out of that. I love that. Another one he said buy, crowdsource. I gotta love to hate this stock, but I also love to trade it. It's an easy one. The structure is just really easy to find on it.
CrowdStrike, not crowdsource.
Sorry, yeah, CrowdStrike, CRWD. Thanks for correcting me. Crowdsource, a different one. That's next on one of the next ones on a list I'm watching. But long story short, this one hasn't really dealt with market structure consolidation in a traditional way. I mean, sure, it got a nice reversion trade on the monthly here, and then it just ripped faces off and went hot. Cramer saying buy it here is a bad sign because we've seen this nasty big old wick here off the spinner on the monthly chart, and I always look to these because it gives you a big range of zone, and it looks to be that we're going to close them maybe into this angular resistance on our daily and 4-hour charts to be respected. But there's a center line here, and I'm wondering if we're going to get a quick reversion trade. So maybe the shorts will attack this right at this angular and take it right back to about 328 or so. Cramer saying buy it, half a kudo. Okay, overnight it looks like it'll hit that resistance point, but for investors, they're going to be pretty hurt if they see this rip back down below where they were told to buy it at. So
Yeah, this could go either way. I mean, nice move yesterday. I believe it was earnings, but it's trying today, and you can tell they're fighting it out. It's in the middle of the range right now for the day.
And typically when you see those earning runs, they love to give half back within the next couple of days after. It's just kind of meeting back to equilibrium, if you will, finding a balance somewhere. So if you're out of balance and you got guys like Cramer telling you to buy it after an earnings run like that, be patient because most of the time it's going to revert at least half of that rip from the earnings call. Typically things will do that. And we know there's a really big wedge here forming. There's an angular resistance right up here. So if you see it suddenly sprint up to 352.80 or 353 and reject off of this today or tomorrow, be aware that it's likely to rip right back down to this 329 or 330 zone right in the middle of that wedge. And if things get really out of hand, it may continue another wave in that and run all the way down to support here probably around 312 to 314 by the time price gets there, if you weigh it out with a trend. So yeah, I wouldn't just throw money at this thing because Cramer said buy it. I'd be very, very cautious when it hits this angular. So half a kudo for the overnight call, yeah, but I think it's going to get liquidated up there, guys. Sorry, but not sorry. Last but not least on the buy list here, we have CELH. This is one I haven't really done anything with either, but pretty obvious double top on a daily chart. And ripped right down to support. Short term, Cramer said buy it. I can kind of maybe give some credit on that. But I don't know that it's going to go for a full reversion trade just yet. Let this consolidate into the bar. Maybe tomorrow we'll start to see a trend form out of this range and maybe revert to $80.50. I mean, it's an obvious reversion target from this range. But it hasn't quite completed a full support test yet, so it may roll around in here and break over, test, around 65, 66 bucks later on, and then become bullish. But look left, look further, and look at the weekly and the daily, and it just I mean, that's just an ominous double top there,
Yeah,
man.
it's kind of hanging in midair here. I
And
wouldn't be buying this right here either. And
I,
it could be, you could have a double top and just getting ready for another leg down.
it's looking a lot like that. I did this a while back with what was it? Not TiVo. What's the other one? Roku. All my friends were like, looking at the daily and 2 hour chart saying, buy it, buy it, buy it. And then I go and look at the monthly chart and it's just the most massive double top I've ever seen in my life. And I started shorting it and I was really right. So this is reminding me of that. It's just a giant double top and I'm just a little concerned and it might, rip through that support and start meeting some lower level reversion trades. So yeah, I would certainly be cautious if you're trying to buy this here for a long-term investment. And we always say don't throw money after Cramer just on what he says. Look at the chart. The chart's going to tell you everything you need to know. And patience is going to be key with this one. Wait for it to break. It'll give you a trade or two, and then if it gives you a break over and people start to short it, it'll give you better opportunities to go long on it later. Eventually maybe it'll make good with continuing this massive bull trend, but look left and look at what it's done before. I mean, pretty obvious reversals, reversion trades over and over and over again, and we're right in the middle of one now. So, if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's probably a duck. Kramer said sell a few things. Workday. This is I don't know if I want to go long on this yet, but I'm saying there's the obvious Kramer bar here from he said sell it yesterday. It popped right up.
Yeah, if it can break above the 10-day, it could get interesting.
I think so. And looking at the 2 hour chart, I mean, we're right at resistance right now in the middle of the day, and it pulled back. It gave us like the signs of maybe it'll give half of this quick move back, and it's getting close. Look for support around 214.50 or so, and maybe this thing will continue to hike higher afterwards after it collects a few pieces of liquidity. Long-term reversion target looks good for a buy if it does. There's a massive gap here. You can see things have been pretty nasty for this company, obviously. Look further left, it's got the traditional market structure look. It accumulated, it broke, it ran up, gave us clean measured moves. Full reversion's been met on this whole thing, so it's got a chance to go higher. I would definitely disagree with Kramer saying sell it here. If you didn't sell it here, it's already too late to sell it here. You lost your butt if you were long on that thing. But if you shorted it here, cool. Yeah, you're covering. That's what happens when you see these green bars. It's just covering, and then maybe they'll run it into support here and run back for a reversion trade. So it's got a good potential to make a swing. And this is what we look for with Kramer's list is we primarily focus on finding good swing trades. This is a good setup so far. We'll wait and see if it confirms a breakout after a reversal, and we'll see if it runs a reversion up to like the 230, 240 zone. Patience, definitely patience, and we'll give it a chance to accumulate first and see where we go. But yeah, don't just sell it because Kramer said sell it. Bad idea. He's messing with my Intel Corp again, man. He said sell it. I like range on Intel. It's been good for trading. I can see an obvious diamond pattern here at the bottom of a very steep bearish trend, and it's in a range. I just marked out the two levels of that range to know if it breaks south, it's a bear flag, and we got a whole trend behind it to push it lower. If it breaks north, reversion trades are obvious.
Yeah, if it breaks above the 10-day and the 20-day, you could be looking at a gap fill here.
Easily. So certainly with all the AI stuff going on and the chips are, just kind of been volatile lately. Obviously, Nvidia and all the other big dogs are moving around quite a bit. This just says we're looking for some consolidation here, maybe a reversion trade to the bull side in the near future and medium long term possibly as well. Not a huge move, but I mean $7 out of 30 is a pretty good percentage for targeting. But patience is going to be prevailing here, waiting for this consolidation. It will eventually break. If it does go lower, we've got a pretty easily marked move down here to like the 25 zone. That could be bloody, but in the meantime, let this consolidation break. It will give us a break, and eventually either we get a quick gap fill or we get a break over and a measured move down next level. But so far, it's looking a little more like a bear flag than a bull flag, but be patient with it. Sometimes these can be a trap for the bears and then it'll rip back up. So probably in the next day or so, we should see a good swing trade emerge from this, either bullish or bearish. Patience with it. I wouldn't just up and sell it yet. Energy fuels, another one he was mentioning. Obviously made a nice reversion trade. He said sell it, and we got our Cramer bar. There's the buyback. I swear.
Yeah, this was one. Just he said, don't buy this one. Buy GEV.
Yep.
And actually, nice undercut and rally at the 50-day. I mean, I wouldn't mind this one here.
Pretty obvious. I mean, it's set up for a nice reversion. I got to wonder if sometimes he says things like this to just provide liquidity for institutional traders. I really do. Because it seems they do the opposite of what he says or what he tells retail traders to do. And it's a pretty good track record for it. Not calling him, a market pumper or anything, but there's some gray area to be seen there for sure. Obvious reversion, obvious support here. I would say, yeah, it's looking good for a buy. Give it a continuation to maybe continue reverting back into the middle or the whole trend here. But so far, the buyers have been all over that. Cramer said sell it. There's your Cramer bar. Ripped it back up. Two reversions, obvious. There's a resistance area here. Let's say we got a medium-term swing target at about $6.30 and some pennies on there. If it runs that whole gamut, 673, 675 is pretty easy. It's got the potential to make a couple runs here, but so far, I wouldn't just up and sell this thing. This may break into a bearish measured move, of course, but give it some time. It'll produce a swing trade or two at least, and making dollars trades on stocks trading under $10, pretty good percentage. I think this is going to be decent for day traders and swing traders alike. So look for volatility. Yep. And because Cramer mentioned it, it gets lots of attention and provides lots of opportunity for both. 5-minute chart, pretty obvious move. We got a nice 1-for-1 out of it on the open. It's attempting reversion right now. Look for support around 615 or so. If it continues to bounce back up, look for a range, probably just find one of the fib levels just under that high for day traders, maybe around $6.26, 27 cents, somewhere in that neighborhood for a quick return to high going into the close. If it holds this support area. So day traders are all over this. This is pretty easy. Swing traders will be looking at this pretty close here too. And if it gives us a nice move, I mean, we got pretty easy targets outside of it. Swing traders definitely take a notice on this one. Another one he said sell, CVS. I've been off and on this thing. Every once in a while I'll trade it, but for now, pretty obviously made half of a return of this gap. So that reversion trade.
I mean, it looks like it could fill this gap. I mean, I hate the business model, but I wouldn't be selling this here.
No, not yet. I would wait for this consolidation. If I was long from here and I wanted to take profit and leave a position on for some runners, maybe I would have sold some of it, but I wouldn't just up and sell it here because Cramer said so, because we're at halfway on that gap. We break the $60.50 range here and get above that pivot. We got a pretty good shot of finishing that gap move. I know the half and whole rule, it applies here. We have returned half that gap, sure. But definitely wouldn't just up and sell it here. I'd wait for this to roll. And this is starting to look a little like a rounding top. Let's give it a range right in here, $60 even for support. If it holds there, we could get a good long swing out of it and attempt to break that pivot above. If it breaks this, then maybe I would sell it. And, looking back to support here, $56, a quick, $4 drop from 60. I could see potentially a short, but for now, I think I wouldn't just up and sell. I wait for this to break. It's going to break this range sooner or later and give us either a nice short or a nice long. Patience is key on stuff like this, but
Yeah.
definitely note that it has made a reversion already. So hang around. It'll give us an answer. CORZ, last but not least on my list. We day traded this on Tuesday and killed it. We absolutely killed it because we knew exactly where those targets were going to be. And then he comes out and says, sell it. And like, hey, there's a Cramer bar, baby. I've got targets pretty easy on this thing. Nice measured move. Swing traders and day traders are all reveling over this thing. And half of a measured move here on this breakout trade is $8. And if it continues to run higher, a full move is $9. Pretty obvious, guys. Easy buy, easy trade, easy swing, easy day trade. Everything is just loved about this chart really nicely. The Cramer says sell it. We ripped a face off to the upside. I gotta love that. That gave me a giggle about it once every 5 minutes this morning in my live stream. I was just tickled on this one. Looking left, it is a fairly fresh IPO-ish, and you look at the daily chart, doesn't give you a whole lot of data. Hype wave opened up. It gave us a very rapid market structure move, and this is pretty traditional. Sometimes they happen that quickly. It can occur. And it's just ripping along, doing very, very well. The news brief this morning, I think, popped out. Let me see. There it was. I guess they reject some sort of takeover bid from some other company, and lo and behold, all the penny flippers came pouring in hordes when they got that news, and here we are, ripping Cramer's face off. So I think
breakouts aren't my thing, but fun to see.
Oh, absolutely, and that's been an easy trade, and we day traded it, nailed the target the other day on this thing, and then this one here, and then the continuation on this thing is just absolutely killing it. I'm loving this thing, easy stuff. But yeah, that's just one more in your face Cramer bar right there. Proverbial slap to Cramer's face. I'm sorry, man, but I know your heart's in the right place, but that was a bonehead move on this one. Don't refer to your soundboard on this one. Unless you want to get a slap sound in there and slap us back, and then we can talk. So if you're watching, Cramer, we can play both ways. Give us some slack, or give us some shade too. We would welcome it. But we're gonna give it right back. Just be aware. We're thick-skinned around here. I think that kind of wraps it up. Unless you got any other mentions.
No, I think the only thing I'd mention is, Cramer wore a leather jacket last night in honor of Jensen, and Nvidia is red. So coincidence?
Maybe.
I don't know.
If only he wore a red leather jacket.
No, he wore the same thing Jensen wore.
Oh,
so everyone thought signing that woman's boob was the top of the market, but no, it was Cramer wearing a leather jacket.
That makes sense. Yeah, there's your Cramer bar, guys. I think Nvidia is just going to remain an absolute riot for day traders and swing traders alike for a while, but underway here is a pretty obvious one-for-one measure move. Here, I'll draw it this time.
And remember, the split is Monday.
Right.
It's not strange to see people buy the news and then maybe sell the fact.
Right. Good point. And I've seen this structure many times before. It's made its full move. The reversion's obvious on this thing. When we had the breakout trade, we did have this liquidity zone here, and we knew it was likely to either rip a face off through that or return to one of these pivots in the foreground here before that major breakout. The other one back here during February, pretty obvious measured move, went right up to a twofer, hit the liquidity, pulled back, reverted. Easy chart. I mean, day traders and swing traders love Nvidia, obviously. But for now, investors are going to be hurting on some of this stuff if they chased it this high and started buying up here, and that split is going to bring even more volatility. So kudos to chart technicians because we're going to be killing this, and especially when it's at a lower cost. So yeah, I think a reversion is pretty much in order, and it's pretty obvious there's a gap there too on the 4-hour chart to boot, right in that range. So
Yeah, I hope not. We're at a high water mark in NVDX, and it put us over $1 billion in AUM yesterday. But
I saw that.
got to do
Congrats.
what it's got to do.
And congrats, man. That's awesome to have that kind of
Thank
AUM.
you.
Yeah, it was definitely a milestone. And if you're long on it, reversion for this current trend isn't too bad. Like 11.6 is pretty reasonable. But if it breaks that, we certainly have more key support right in here. So I think, yes, it might tip back for a pullback. It is kind of likely to do so. And long term, though, it'll eventually continue melting up. I mean, NVIDIA is like taking over the globe, so to speak, in every way. I mean, their market cap is bigger than pretty much everything, isn't it?
They're getting there. They're getting close to Apple.
Yeah, a pullback would be awesome. And then we've got the Cramer bar. We've got it in motion here. Say look for support around 11.6 or 1163 or whatever that's going to be after the split. I'll compute that later. My brain doesn't do math today. But I've been getting over a cold. I've got more snot than brain cells right now. But yeah, reversion is pretty obvious. I'd love to say maybe pick it up around that level and take a swing higher, but be aware that Monday is that split, and that's going to bring some very rapid moves. Typically,
Yep.
people end up buying it though, and the chart tells me if it hits this number and holds, that split's going to be a definite go long signal and rip it on up back to the high, or maybe even a full move above it. So yeah, Monday is going to be exciting on this one, and I almost want to come out and say let's do a follow up on Tuesday about this one and see where we're at. But if we have time, we can do it.
Be interesting. Yeah, I should be around.
Okay, I'll hit you up if I can make some time for it myself, and we'll do it because this is exciting. I'm loving NVIDIA. But anyway, I think that's about it for time. We're a little over, in fact. So thanks for hanging with me, man. I know you've got a lot to do, so your time is
Not a problem.
very valuable. I want to respect that. I've already taken an hour of it every week for going on a little over a year now? I don't know. I've lost track.
Yeah, me too.
But I love hanging with you, man. This has been just an awesome journey we've been on, and being able to throw the shade at Cramer is just the icing on top.
Yes, it is.
But great minds think alike, and I think we align pretty well on our technical analysis. And man, we've made some killer trades. Our accuracy for every time we've done this show is still holding right in that 95% accuracy range for everything we've called out. And whether we've said buy to this target, sell to this target, or wait patiently to stay away from this, we've been dead on with those factors, and that's pretty damn good track record. So I think maybe I'll keep teasing this. Maybe CNBC should offer us a job that we can decline. I don't know.
Maybe one day.
It depends. Maybe we'll get a big soundboard and start screaming and yelling and dancing around on the screen for everybody, but we'll be right. Most of the time. Anyway, thanks again for joining us. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Be sure and catch us next week and like and subscribe. But above all, tell your friends, because I mean, if we've got this kind of track record and we're holding this kind of accuracy, certainly it's got to mean something to somebody out there. And if you tell your friends and they start to catch on here, maybe we just start our own network and start really calling out some awesome trades and staying with it to be more relevant than CNBC itself. So thanks again, guys. Have a wonderful week.